Space Food Sticks, the energy snack from U.S. Aerospace Research.
Do you remember the snacks that made the 70s and 80s feel like the tastiest decades ever? From fizzy soda tablets to peanut butter in wild flavors, these treats weren't just food, they were childhood memories in a wrapper. So, what happened to those wild snack flavors we all grew up on? Today, let's uncover forgotten snacks from the 70s and 80s we seriously want back. Oh, and a few of these might still exist, if you know where to look. Okay, so do you remember the first time a snack made you feel like an astronaut on a mission? Space food sticks were chewy snacks made during the space race and sold as astronaut food for kids. They came in flavors like chocolate and peanut butter and were packed with energy. Eating them made kids feel like they were in space. Parents liked them too because they seemed healthy. Sure, they tasted a little weird, but that didn't matter. And what if drinking soda felt like doing a science experiment? Fizzies were these colorful tablets that turned regular water into a fizzy-flavored drink. It was like mixing science and snacks. You'd drop the tablet in a glass of water, and it would bubble like crazy while releasing flavors like root beer, grape, or cherry. Kids loved the whole process. Then there was a candy bar so long they had to print a ruler on the wrapper. The Marathon Bar was one of the most unique candy bars ever made. It was this long braided caramel rope covered in smooth chocolate, kind of like a twisted ladder of sweetness. It came with a ruler printed on the wrapper to prove it was actually 8 inches long.
Told you, nobody eats a Marathon Bar quick. Claude.
Marathon lasts a good long time.
But sadly, it vanished in the early 80s, and no other bar has truly replaced it. And if breakfast needed a boost, tiny gold boxes of Kellogg's concentrate were there to help. Kellogg's concentrate wasn't your usual cereal. It came in tiny gold boxes and was packed with nutrients. It was supposed to be super healthy, even though the flakes looked weird and didn't taste great. Parents loved it because it was high in protein, but kids, not so much. Still, it was a big part of 70s breakfast culture. For something a little more fun, kids reached for crunchy snacks that tasted just like pizza. Pizza spins were crunchy little snacks that looked like gears and tasted like mini pizzas. They had tomato, cheese, and seasoning baked into them. They weren't just snacks, they felt like pizza parties in a bag. They didn't last very long, but while they were around, they were a big hit. And when you craved color and crunch, Wacky Wafers delivered giant fruity discs that hit the spot. Wacky Wafers were giant, crunchy candy discs in fruity flavors like banana, watermelon, and green apple. They came in strips and were super sweet, perfect for kids with serious sugar cravings. They were pulled off shelves for a while, then briefly came back. And if you were into peanut butter, the next one might have been your favorite. Peanut Butter Boppers were chewy peanut butter balls coated in crunchy bits or dipped in chocolate. They were tasty, filling, and easy to pack. These were marketed as healthier snacks, but they tasted just like dessert. And speaking of peanut butter, did you ever spread banana-flavored peanut butter on bread? Koogle was a spreadable peanut butter made in wild flavors like chocolate, banana, cinnamon, and strawberry. It was smooth, easy to spread, and made sandwiches super fun. Kraft made Koogle to jazz up boring lunches, and for a while it worked. But it didn't last long and quietly disappeared from stores. But for chocolate lovers, things were about to get even better. Hostess Chocodiles were exactly that. Your favorite soft Twinkie, but dipped in a layer of chocolate. It was like a dessert upgrade that no one expected. For a while, they disappeared from shelves and fans freaked out. They made a comeback years later, but old-school fans say they don't taste quite the same. But not all great snacks were sweet. Do you remember the salty crunch that came from a tin with the Morton Salt Girl on the front? Morton Salt Chips were crunchy, salty, and came in cool tins with the classic Morton Salt Girl on them. The chips had a unique taste, a little thicker and heartier than most, and people loved them. But they quietly disappeared, probably because they weren't keeping up with the big chip brands. And then there was a treat so magical, it split itself into 3 colourful layers. Jello 123 was a magical treat. You'd make one simple mix, but when it chilled, it turned into 3 separate layers. Creamy, fluffy, and jiggly. It was colourful and fun to eat, and it felt like science in a glass. Families served it at parties, and kids loved showing it off. But it faded out in the 90s and hasn't been seen since. Of course, no party plate or lunchbox was complete without those golden hi-ho crackers. They were like Ritz, but crunchier and a little less buttery. They came in a yellow box and were a go-to snack for dips, cheese, or just by themselves. People loved them at parties or packed in lunchboxes. And right next to them, there might have been those light, hole-filled crackers shaped like Swiss cheese. These were light, crispy, and shaped like Swiss cheese, holes and all. The flavour was bold and cheesy. Kids loved the fun shape, and adults actually snacked on them too. But eventually Nabisco stopped making them, and now they're just a cheesy memory. Now let's get weird, with a hot dog that had dinner inside dinner. Frankenstuff were regular hot dogs, but with a twist. They were stuffed with chili or cheese inside the sausage. You could heat them up quick and bite right into the flavour. And for sports fans with a sweet tooth, how could anyone forget the candy bar named after a baseball legend? Named after Reggie Jackson, the Reggie bar was packed with peanuts, caramel, and chocolate. It was sweet, crunchy, and had major star power. Fans of Reggie and candy lined up to get one. It had a decent run, but faded after Reggie's career slowed down. Still, it's one of the most iconic sports-themed snacks ever. And if breakfast on the go was your thing, maybe you remember the spiral-shaped pastries that rolled up all the flavour. Danish Go-Rounds were like fruit-filled toaster pastries, but rolled up in a spiral. They had gooey centres and flaky outsides, perfect with milk or a quick breakfast. They were fun to look at and even better to eat, but eventually Pop-Tarts took over the toaster pastry world and Go-Rounds disappeared. So, which one of these snacks do you remember best? Let us know before they disappear again.